Well, hi there, everybody. You're traveling with Jack, and as I always say, my heavenly wife, Pam. And this is part of my grief journey series. And I wanted to share with you a little story or two here. First one being, a few days ago, I was in my office at work, and a young couple came by. It was a new employee with her husband taking a tour of the television station. And they came by my office and said hi. They were just the sweetest couple. And I said, how long have you guys been married now? They said, well, 1 year. And they immediately noticed some pictures of Pam that were scattered around the office, and they had heard about my loss. And they said, wow, they said, that must have been really, really hard. And I said, well, I said, it really, really was and continues to be really hard. But I said, I keep moving forward. I said, I just always tell people I won't necessarily move on, but moving forward. And they said, gosh, they said, how long were you married? I said, well, over 30 years. I said, we knew each other since high school. I said, we got married really young. And I said, she was still pretty young to have had to have left this earth. And they said, what do you think made your marriage special? They said, we're looking at the pictures. And they said, I thought this was very perceptive of them. They said, you can just see by the smiles on your faces that those aren't staged, that was true happiness. And I said, well, you guys are very perceptive. I said, we were incredibly happy. I said, that's not to say that we didn't have a bump or two in the road, but I said, for the most part, it was fantastic. It really was. And I said, and after they leave this earth, I said, those bumps in the road, they're just gone. You just remember the smooth ride. And don't let anybody tell you any differently, because it's your memories. And I said, but back to your question of what was the key, I said, it was being best friends. I said, we truly were best friends. And I said, are you guys best friends? And they said, yes, we are. I said, well, that's important. I said, you got to be friends before you can be lovers. And that's what we were. And we remained that way. And it's funny now when I think about Pam and when I have things in my memories, the one thing that still makes me cry the hardest is when I say this, and I'll try and get it out. It's like, I didn't just lose my wife. I didn't just lose my lover. I didn't just lose the mother to our children, but I lost my best friend. See there? Darn it, I thought I could get through that. I don't know why that is so hard, but it is. And I'm so happy I had a best friend. And yeah, I've still got some really good friends, and I've got a really good best friend back in Tennessee, but none of them could ever top Pam. And that brings me to another little brief story about my grandparents. I loved both sets of my grandparents. There was Mom and Pop Morris, and there was Mama Lou and Pappa Jack. This story, short story, is about Mama Lou and Pappa Jack. I've thought a lot about Mama Lou lately, and how that she lost Pappa Jack when she was only 58 years old, but they'd been married 40 years. They married right out of high school. So he was a young man, like Pam, who went to heaven. And it's funny, as a kid, I was just a little kid when it happened, and I can remember thinking, oh, why is Mama Lou always so down? What's wrong with Mama Lou? Why can't she get over this? And now it's like, man, oh man, I wish I'd been smarter or more perceptive to her needs. But I was just a little kid. But the point being, Mama Lou kept going. And she ended up having a really, at least from the outside, a fun life. And I think she did. She came to see Pam and me all over the country. She had this traveling companion who had also lost her husband, Ruby. They both lived into their 90s, traveled, had a lot of fun together. But the thing I remember about Mama Lou and Pappa Jack was, and this is where it really kind of hit me hard about losing your best friend. I can remember as a little child that they had such routines, and you knew that they were best friends. Every Friday, I would come over and spend the night at their house, and we would go out to eat at some little restaurant there in Union City, Tennessee. Nothing fancy, just a little restaurant. And they would usually have another couple that would meet them. I remember one couple was the Woosleys. And there were other couples. And that was their routine. And I remember it was so much fun. And then on Saturdays, I would go down to the box warehouse my grandfather owned and watch him work for a little bit. Then we would come back and Mama Lou would have lunch for us and we'd watch the Major League Baseball game of the week. You only had one game of the week and it was on Saturdays and we'd watch that. And then I would go back to my parents' house and then on Saturday night, Mama Lou and Pappa Jack, best friends. They would play canasta. To this day, I still don't know what canasta is. But they had a group of friends they'd get together with, and they'd play canasta. And then on Sundays, Mama Lou and Pappa Jack, they'd go to church together. And I remember in the afternoon, nothing special, but they would always just take a drive. As a kid, I can remember it was one of those LTDs. How many of you remember the Ford LTD? And they'd take a drive somewhere in the country. And then they'd come home and they'd have dinner. That was the mark of true friends. And I want to think that that probably had a lasting memory on me. And now I'm learning that, as I've told you guys before, that I'm having to learn to be my own best friend. Maybe someday there'll be someone else, but I'm okay if there's not. Because sometimes they say it's rare to have that one best friend in life and just be thankful that you had them for however long you had them. So that's about it. Hang on to those memories. Hang on to the fact that I hope you had a best friend, and I hope it was your husband or your wife. And I hope now that maybe you're getting comfortable being your own best friend. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, it's hard, but we can do this, can't we? I know we can. We can. We don't have any other choice. Don't do like my 94-year-old, or our 94-year-old friend Lola. I may have told you this before, that shortly after Pam died, told me I had 3 choices to make in life now. And Lola, she knew tragedy well. She lost her husband very young as well. Then she lost her son at a young age. But yet Lola kept pressing forward. And Lola's had a good life. And Lola's still alive today. She's 94 years old. But after Pam passed, and she was terribly, terribly hurt by it as well. But she told me, she says, you know what, Jack? She says, you got 3 choices you can make now about life. I said, Lola, what are they? She says, well, number 1, you can go in a really deep, dark space and never come out. She says, number 2, you could take your life. Or number 3, you can decide to keep moving. Learn how to be happy. Learn how to be friends with yourself, and then others will follow. I said, well, Lola, I think I'll take door number 3 for now. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I recommend to you as well. You guys have a great day. Be sure and share this with somebody if you think it might benefit them. And I always appreciate you subscribing to our channel. That's Traveling with Jack and Pam. Have a good day, and as we always say, make it a better tomorrow.